Good afternoon. Welcome. This is the Public Safety Tax Measure E Citizens Oversight Committee agenda. Tuesday, May 14th, 2024 at 4 p.m. I call the meeting to order. We have public comment. Any person may directly address the committee at this time on any item not on the agenda or any item that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the committee. A maximum of 5 minutes is allowed for each speaker. Are there any public comments? Okay. Approval of the meeting minutes from May 15th, 2023. Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
I move to accept them.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Meeting minutes approved. Then here, let's see, Measure E 2023-24 update and 2024-25 budget planning. Staff report by City Manager Alex Henderson.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman, members of the committee. I just, again, just a brief overview of Measure E. Measure E was approved by 72% of voters during the June 5th, 2018 election. And as such, the city receives monthly installments from the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration. There are two different types of taxes that the city receives as it relates to sales tax. One is a local tax. It's a general term for sales and use taxes imposed under the Bradley-Burns Uniform Sales and Use Tax Law. But this particular tax is considered a district tax. They are imposed locally under the Transactions and Use Tax Law. Measure E is considered a transaction and use tax, which are allocated to the jurisdiction where the tax product is received or registered, as in the case of motor vehicle purchases. Because of this Measure E, 1% revenue collections are higher than the 1% local jurisdiction, place of sale or use. For example, if a consumer purchases a new motor vehicle and registers it in Kingsburg as their place of residence, the city receives the 1% sales tax for that vehicle for the purposes of Measure E. The same theory applies with destination-based purchases, which is especially relevant for online activity, which saw a sharp increase during the pandemic, and then obviously just consumer habits. So I have some additional highlights since the tax was approved since 2018 that have got us to this point, but I will turn it over to Chief Dadian and Interim Chief Banaski to provide updates on their particular departments, and I'm certainly here to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for your presence here today and for your civic participation. I really appreciate that. So I'm going to give you a brief overview of our spending plan for this current fiscal year, and then projections for what our spending plan is for the next fiscal year going forward. Thanks, Abby. So first slide, remodel a police station. We allocated $350,000 for that. The work was completed. We also worked as a city on the emergency operations plan, and that was $30,000 from the police department share. That was also completed. So we entered into an agreement over a 5-year period to purchase body and dash cameras. So we have just completed the first year on that. Our training, upfitting of vehicles, the equipment that's involved, and retrofitting some of our vests and shirts so that they could accommodate the camera. And that is complete. So we're almost 1 year into that, and with 4 more years to go. We have 3 vehicles on order, and that's a carryover from a couple of different budget years, 22-23 and 23-24. Unfortunately, vehicles have just been very difficult to get a hold of. Ford has been deferring production on those for a couple of years. I always try and buy the hybrids, gas savers, do my part for the environment, but those those are on the back burner, making those things last, and for a couple of years didn't make them. So we have deferred that purchase. We were able to purchase some other significant pieces of equipment. Motorola APX 8000 dual band radios. That purchase was complete. That was in the budget for this year. Personal management software, we completed that. Some of the training that we've been able to participate in, peace officer skills and specialty training, there's been a variety of that. Individual assignment and investigative training, that has also been ongoing. Technical and investigative conferences, because of Measure E, we're able to send some of our investigators to conferences. Supervisory leadership conferences, we completed that, and also some women's leadership and development. And one of the focuses I have is hiring more females at the police department, and then giving them the tools that they need to be successful in the law enforcement profession, not just for our sworn staff, but also for our professional staff. So I like to participate in their development. There's a couple of different areas that we do that. Measure E's allowed that training and conferences and development for female employees. And every year we do new laws and regulation because they change constantly here in California, so it's difficult to keep up. Also, some of the other training that we participated in, tactical breacher, building searches, arrest and control, Gracie, jiu-jitsu instructor, that's one of those, that's very trending hard in law enforcement right now. Instead of doing things where you're using kinetic energy like beanbags or batons or gas or something, it's more hands-on, but you have to teach people how to do that properly so that they're not hurt, the suspects aren't hurt. So I've had a couple of staff at instructor schools for that. Wouldn't have been able to do that without Measure E funds. Digital evidence recovery, pistol optics, instructor, armorer, surveillance fundamentals, interviewing school-age children, homelessness, and then some school resource officer training as well. So I gotta apologize. I'm pretty sure I didn't hit save on some of this, so where it says go back, Abby, one more, or where you were. One more.
Forward or backwards?
Forward, sorry. Where it says 22, 23, yeah, that should be 20. 23, 24, thank you. So more training, leadership, supervisory, the women's conference that I talked about, some of the other things for the female employees. And so, summary, one more, go forward. So here's what we funded. 1 police services technician, professional staff, and 25% of my salary, and then 9 full-time staff, 2 police lieutenants, 1 police sergeant, 6 police officers, 10 full-time positions. With general and other third-party funds, staffing was 27 sworn, 4 professional staff, 31 full-time employees, the most we've had ever. And very happy about that. Going forward, spending plan 24-25 is, thank you, professional staff will be 1 police services tech, 25% of my salary, 2 police lieutenants, 1 police sergeant, and 5 police officers. So we've seen a reduction in funds, or revenue, I should say, and reduction in funds at the police department. So I had to eliminate 1 position. Fortunately, I had a resignation, so we were just able to shift that from Measure E to the general fund. But we did have to reduce by 1. So if you look on the next slide, we'll have basically what I told you in a couple of previous slides, 30 full-time employees instead of 31 full-time employees with that. reducing from 7 police officers to 6. Spending plan, again, going forward, will be body-worn dash cameras. Again, that's over 5 years. It's approximately $80,000 per year on that subscription. The 3 vehicles carrying over into hopefully this budget year. They're starting to slowly produce vehicles. We've been noticed that 2 have arrived somewhere in California. We're still trying to figure out when they're going to get to us. Safety equipment, it's pretty much the standard. We're not buying anything new, or we pretty much made all the purchases that we need from Measure E funds to get us where we need to be. So, and we were able to do that in the prior budget years. At this point, it's ballistic vests. They have a life of 5 years. Ammunition for training, helmets, restraints, personal protective equipment, firearms, that type of stuff. Tasers have changed a little bit. That's a really valuable tool for us. The people who produce that are taking all their clients to a subscription service. So basically, we purchase it per officer, and it's over a period of time. It's a subscription for them instead of buying the piece of equipment, which is what we've done previously, and now we're stuck with outdated equipment. It's a subscription. They upgrade it as their technology evolves and develops. Next slide. Again, apologize. It says 23-24. Should say 24-25, as the remainder of the slides do. Sorry about not hitting save. Training plan, pretty much the same. Peace officer specialty training, assignment and individual investigative training, some technical conferences, leadership conferences for supervisors and female employees, new laws and regulations, pretty much the standard fare. That's what we need on a regular basis, and that's what Measure E helps with. Next, services or materials and services, just letting you know how that shakes out for the 10 employees under that budget: office supplies, screening of personnel, department tools, communications, vehicle maintenance, fuels, equipment maintenance. That's the major stuff that we make our purchases with these funds. We do have 2 school resource officers that are partially funded by Measure E. I mentioned this last year. So the schools, each district basically contracts for the services of a police officer and provides all of the costs of the employee. Measure E, in our partnership with both districts, helps us to fund vehicles, materials and services, such as the things I mentioned before, the safety equipment, fuel, training and education, et cetera. So we have that for both our elementary school district and our high school district, so that the schools see a benefit of Measure E. That concludes my report. Again, thank you for your time and attention. Happy to answer any questions.
The cameras, now, is it taking, my understanding is it's going to take 5 years for us to get them all, or?
Oh, no. So we have all the equipment up front. We're now trained on all the equipment. That was just completed last month. We have everything that we need to move forward, which we're doing right now. It's technology, right? It takes a learning curve. So right now the officers are learning on that.
Okay.
We'll basically pull that trigger here. We haven't decided yet. We still have to refine some policy, but no later than July 1. We'll go forward with that full implementation. Right now, honestly, they're just kind of playing around with it to see what all features it has, how it works for them, what best way to do it, some little refinement things. But all the equipment is ours. It's just a subscription. We basically, instead of paying the full freight up front, we get to pay over 5 years.
Okay. How are you have more officers at the schools now. How's that working out for you?
Very good. Both the districts are happy. It helps with reduce our calls for service, or those calls for service that we do get serviced immediately by the officers being present. And then, here's the non-tangible. they have a relationship with those kids, and that is invaluable. You can't put a price tag on that.
Right.
So to have those officers there, building those relationships, seeing the kids every day, having a relationship with the school districts, the employees, the teachers, the staff, the administration. In my view, money well spent. It's a good investment. It's a good investment for the schools, and it's a good investment for the city. Those kids will remember those officers for the rest of their lives. Hey, I remember the police officer who was the SRO at my school when I was in, elementary school or junior high. They just do. I remember mine to this day.
Yeah, well, what I've seen, they tend to respect the officer more.
You're right. Yeah. Again, another intangible. I think that just goes to helping them be good citizens.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is John Bonaski. I am the interim fire chief for the city of Kingsburg, and I don't remember the resource officer when I went to school, but I do remember the nuns. So, so it depends how you want to look at it. So here's where we are. This is what we've done in the past fiscal year for Measure E for the fire department. Currently, it pays for 3 fire captains, 1 full-time administrative assistant, and 1 part-time administrative assistant. We pay for 50% of an accounts clerk that's in the finance department, and then we pay about 17% or so. It's split between public works, PD, and fire for an account clerk in finance. So that's our personnel deployment under Measure E. This year we did $13,500 for fire department training, and most of that was used so when we have people on vacation, one of the things we do is we move people up to the next rank. So firefighters then drive the fire apparatus and our acting engineer, and then the engineers are acting captains. So we had new personnel and people. We had to finish off the training to meet state fire training requirements for the ability for people to move up to the rank above. And then we are still trying to build up and work our way through fire prevention, because we are the only people who have authority to go into and make sure that existing buildings and businesses are fire safe. So we are finishing off, lucky for us, Fresno Fire had a big turnover of personnel, so they brought all the classes here locally from state fire training to put on the fire prevention series, and we just finished the last class 2 weeks ago. We have $30,000 for the strategic plan and department master plan. Originally that was budgeted for $60,000, but at least part of my time here, or why I'm here, part of my other job in life that I have is that I'm a consultant with a company who does it. Just decided that there's no point of paying them the overhead and the pieces. I will now have a very good idea of the department. I was able to work with the contractors who do the GIS and data analysis and contract straight with them to save the city some money. So we should be able to complete that project for $30,000 instead of the original $60,000 that was going to go over 2 years of that 2 fiscal years. And then this year we did $75,000 for the Station 1 repairs. We replaced all the motors in the overhead doors. We replaced the air conditioning units, and just kind of need AC. It's warm here in the valley, and we need the doors to open when the call comes in. So, and part of one of the things that we have a tendency to do in the fire service is we have doors open, we put our gear in it. Sometimes people don't close the door all the way. There's always supposedly a malfunction on the lock of the door or wherever it seems to be, but it's normally operator error, and we pull out the fire station and hit the door on the side of the fire engine. It happens all over the U.S. with it. We put big red lights in the cabs and stuff so people know the door's open, but apparently that still doesn't fix it. So we went to, instead of the little garage door openers that are I-beams, they now do big full 6-foot I-beams. So in turn now we should clearly know the door's up, the cabinets are closed, and we should be able to damage our equipment. So that was what we completed on those. We did the final last year of our radio upgrade, so all of our radios have been upgraded to the best technology, the best ability. The last thing we're waiting for our radio upgrade plan is not on our responsibility. It's actually on a state repeater at Blue Mountain, which speaking to the CAL FIRE unit chief, that should be done in the next 2 months to upgrade there and upgrade the repeater here, so we in turn can finish off the final parts of the radio communication plan, but that's not on our expense. That's on the region's expense. $20,000 for PPE. The wonderful world of Cal OSHA changed and followed the NFPA guidelines for our protective clothing. And NFPA is kind of governed by a group of industry professionals, manufacturers, and others. And one of those things is the gear has to be inspected annually, and we don't have a light table. All those I don't know pretty much anybody that does. So we're kind of working with our partners of CAL FIRE, some of the bigger departments to see, but right now we just shipped the first box of them, and it's mighty expensive. It's very heavy gear. UPS is going to make a good sizable amount of money off the fire service because there's not that many vendors. There's no one local. It either goes over the hill to LA or it goes up and over into the Bay Area for them to do the light table test, make sure the vapor barrier works, all the pieces are in there, clean it, and in turn repair it. So we sent the first 5 sets. We'll see what they find when they got them. That was just last week. And then we replaced and got rip packs, and we flow test machine and did all of our new cylinders were out of date because they can only be hydro twice. So at 15 years, we had to replace some bottles. So we now have a full complement of bottles, and we have 10 spare to be able to use and restock the fire engines while we refill them after a fire. So what do we change for fiscal year 24-25? I came, I guess, at the right time or the wrong time, depending on how you want to look at it, when we were just in the thick of budget items. And one of the things that we really wanted to do was say, what's the ambulance generating revenue? What does the ambulance cost the taxpayer or do for the 12 people that it takes to run that? 2 units, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then in turn, my time as the fire chief is really spent probably 50% fire, 50% ambulance. Same with the administrative assistant who helps me and does those things. So the thought was really is let's figure out what's the cost to staff the 2-person fire engine and make sure that that's really directed to what the taxpayer's intent was to put the fire engine on the road and make sure that's the public safety we're providing. So we kind of changed it. We have 3 captains. We moved a fire apparatus engineer into the Measure E budget, removed the administrative assistant. Then we have a part-time administrative assistant who helps us for 900 hours a year. The bottom portion didn't change. And then in the general fund portion of the city, we have the 2 remaining engineers to staff the fire engine. So in turn, that's how it's being funded for the fire apparatus, and then the ambulance fund is paying for the ambulance at no cost to the taxpayer. It's all through service fees. We know a fire engine here should last us about 20 years, so we need one main one to go respond, then we need a reserve. So you take that $2 million, you amortize it at current cost for a 20-year total lifespan. It winds up being about $100,000 a year. So trying to amortize our capital outlay equipment instead of saying, oh, we don't have the money set aside and I need this amount of money to purchase a new one, let's put it in a side account. And we're doing the same thing for the ambulance side of it to be able to purchase a new ambulance every 5 years with appropriate EKG and equipment inside. This is about what we think is going to cost us, about $15,000 a year to package it up, get the repairs, send it back to do the required OSHA PPE testing. And then I did the same thing for our command vehicles and a 10-year lifespan to amortize it for the vehicles, and then in turn put a set-aside account so we're not coming with the full amount in a single budget. And then we haven't done hose testing in the last 4 years. We actually pulled hose off of one of the reserve engines. We just finished it. That was here when I was here 20 plus years ago. It was 1994, 95 years hose. So we need to, lucky we had that in stock. We replaced that hose, but we need to go back and replace the hose and equipment. And we have about $5,000 worth of hose to replace. And then we'll test it annually like it should be done. And that's pretty much the extent of my presentation. Most of it's in the salaries of the personnel along with amortizing for the equipment, and I'm available for questions.
Is the ambulance self-supporting?
One is. So if you take where it is for the entire amount, you amortize it, and I have to thank Jerry Abdiki for this, for all the knowledge of the ambulance world and making sure we build auto insurances on Monday morning. So we were in line for the first $5,000, and really set me on the path for budgeting. And we do about 2,200, 2,100, maybe 2,120 actual patient transports billable. Currently, we get $788 average return back from the payment. And then we have a federal program that offsets some of the reimbursed cost. So if you take that, for sure the first out ambulance is funded. It's where and then amortize the cost. In ambulance, that you need 3 of them, so 2 first out, we need to reserve. You amortize the cost for the replacements of the EKG machines, the CPR, automated CPR machines, so we don't have to sit there and do it like we used to do. We now have a machine that does it, and actually is shown it does it much better than we do. So it increases survivability. The medications and everything. So if you amortize all the costs, put all the fees in it, do the whole gamut, costs us about $1.7 million per year per ambulance. So you take that times 2, about 3.4 million. We generate roughly through programs, through the ambulance billing, and then federal programs, we come right about $3 million. So we're short about the 400,000, and fortunately, hopefully they continue out of their generosity with the healthcare district. Is the healthcare district for the last 3 years has made up that additional it started off about 330, 340, it pays for 3 personnel, but pension costs, healthcare raises have gone up. It's now approximately 400,000 for the 3 personnel, and made that presentation, I think last Wednesday night to them, and they should come back in their meeting in June and hopefully continue that process to fund that. So that's why I say just about. We need 3.4 million or so to pay for 2 ambulances, 24 hours, 7 days a week. There's just not enough calls in Zone K to generate enough revenue for both ambulances. But I can tell you yesterday, they got dispatched to a call in South Fresno. Didn't make it there, got canceled.
Well,
but,
we used to go all the way to Kalinga.
Yep. Oh, we got a Kalinga. I get that one, but.
Okay, you know,
Right.
the ultimate goal was that we wanted to have the city covered.
Right.
And the surrounding area, and give the best service at that time as to our qualifications.
Right.
Okay, what is our status with the 201 with the county?
You mean 201 rights?
Yeah.
I would say legally you probably have them, just like Selma. Obviously, you were providing ambulance service prior to the EMS Act of 1979. So the court, I believe, has ruled enough that says you have 201 rights, and that's why we have Zone K. But your 201 rights truly are only good for the city of Kingsburg limits. You don't have it for all of Zone K.
Why not? We always used to have the county.
You do, but you
Did we give them away?
no. But the 1979 EMS Act gave county area back to the county and cities that weren't providing EMS service prior to 1979 that ability. So as your city limits grow, you take that portion of the county and technically have 201 rights. But you only have 201 rights for the city jurisdiction that you're in. The county still owns their technical rights under the EMS Act for everything outside. Now, at the end of the day, I guess some aspects it said you can take it back. I mean, there's not enough calls out there to generate revenue to pay for it. So at the end of the day, they obviously want us as the city to pick up that area for them because there's not enough residents out there to generate enough revenue to pay for it.
Now, is it,
And those would be
We're-
224 rights, not 201
we're
rights.
making the calls, is it our billing process that we aren't getting the revenue we should be getting?
No, we're doing perfectly fine under what we should be getting in revenue and government funding.
And what percent are we getting in return?
In return of what? I mean, I guess this,
Revenue,
well,
billing.
well, but it's let me see how to say this the best possible way. We bill X, and X now is,
Why?
well, no, I don't even know, no one's paying X, so let's just be honest with what X is. X, no one pays, whether or not you are in the hospital and it's $100 for Tylenol pill, whatever it is, but everybody's billing X. And then we get a portion of Y is what the insurance companies negotiated rates and all those. Now, between X and Y is the IGT program and the PPGMT program that brings us back up to X. And that runs us right now about $1.2 million. But we still have this gap. So if you took everything out there, so let's just say we bill 4.5 million, we generate 3. So that's what it is. But I don't know anybody who's remotely close to what they bill in any ambulance. But we've gone back since I've been here the last year. We've made sure We had 240 runs that weren't properly done for PCR, signatures, mileage, whatever. We have now cleaned all those up, resubmitted those for billing, and then where our rate is. But if you take that, we run right around $800 a call and 2,000 calls, so 1.6 million or so. And then we get 1.2, 1.23 in government funding programs to make it. And that's the difference of us being a government entity than us being a private ambulance company, that we're able to go back and enter into those government funded programs.
Now, do you have any understanding as to why Selma went back to the ambulance service, where they had dropped out of it and got American Ambulance in there?
American was just a contract for service, so they never gave up their 201 rights. They just chose to contract with American Ambulance to provide the service. So really, it was a contract for labor, is really all it was. And they chose to do it. They felt that they could bring those employees on themselves, and single role paramedics, single role EMTs, and then do the billing. I believe they're with us. They do Sharp billing, Dynuba, and Sanger still do billing in-house. And Kalinga does Whitman. So for what I can see from Sharp, their billing, they've got a vested interest. They get a percentage, so they want to make sure that they get the most dollars, because that's how they get the most amount of revenue. So they have a vested interest in the revenue aspect of it also. It's not pay per. That used to be the way that American and Whitman is it's pay by call. Once they bill it, they get their $22 or $25 and it's gone. And then in turn, they get a little bit more. We made a contract, and what the contract is with Sharp is a payment percentage of what is collected.
Okay, thank you.
I was going to ask, just on the subject of electric vehicles, what training has gone on, specialty equipment that you either have or need for the future? Do you anticipate anything like that?
It's an evolution of learning, and part of what's out there is the good, bad, and ugly of it right now is for electrical vehicle on fire, the actual best thing to do right now, and we're not really advertising this, but it's being streamed live so someone can see it, and this is what it is you could take a vehicle that's electric, it takes about 20,000 gallons or so to put it out. So if you have, and then here's the problem with it, is we cool the metals in the battery enough to put it out, and then they tow it to the wrecking yard. And Fresno just had this one, I want to say 6 months ago, and then Clovis had one. They went back to the wrecking yard twice because the next day because the fire started. And even it's usual lithium batteries that are on your drill sets and things like that in the garage. Someone had a fire in the garage, not by their lithium batteries, but then they got hot on the workbench where the gentleman had 2 or 3 of them. They got hot, then they started a fire. He actually had 2 fires, unfortunately, at his garage from 2 separate locations. They took them outside, put them on the side of the house, and the fire department of Washington went back a 3rd time for the fact that the batteries were still on fire. So if you kind of take all that, the best strategy right now is to let it burn down and just really let it burn itself out. And in turn, it stops the rekindle where it is. The U.S. Fire Administration, along with the National Fire Academy, has been developing some programs. We've done some testing. We've done some pieces. At the end of the day, right now, it's either one of 2 things: copious amounts of water, or let it burn itself out. The bigger one that starts going to change this is PG&E, and where we have more things is the built-in battery packs in garage for solar, because you're not getting the same return on time of day. We had somebody who hit one and did the same thing. It damaged it, just barely tapped it up, put a little dent in it, damaged some cells. Guess what? The thing caught fire. So it's just another aspect of where we are.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I ask for a motion to accept budget plan in compliance with resolution number 2018-051.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Second motion, please. Motion carries. All in favor, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Any other business? All good? No other business? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Pretty close, Abigail.
You are good, yes. Thank you all for coming again. See you next year. Thank you.